everyone, and welcome to Luminous Living with life coach Rachel Vargas. For those that don't know me, I'm Rachel, and I'm a full-time life coach. I have a background in psychology as well as professional training in holistic coaching, and I'm here to use YouTube as a platform to share some insightful and just some deep and enlightening information on the self-discovery process, personal development, and how to transcend adverse behaviors, and how to get from point A to point B, meaning A where you are, B where you want to be. Now, for those of you that are unfamiliar with life coaching is basically a partnership between a client and a coach in a thought-provoking and creative process in an effort to maximize the client's personal and professional potential. So your objective can be a particular goal. It could be career-based, I want to reach this certain position. It could be financial coaching. You have relationship coaching, how to improve the relationship with yourself. Some people are looking into a deeper insight as to who am I, what my purpose is, what is my mission. It could be such a large variety. We have stress management, dealing with codependency, how to break away from negative behavioral patterns and transcending into more positive behavioral patterns. In all, it really just translates into how do I live a more successful, happier, fulfilling life. And as a coach, I'm here to be that guiding light and just walk with you hand in hand. Of course, accountability is 100% on the client. I'm there to follow up with you, be that support system, and really help you dive deeper into yourself to find the answers to the questions that you're looking for. So in this wonderful honor and privilege of being able to practice as a coach, I've just experienced such a variety of different situations that I've been in personally, also situations that other clients have been able to work through. And I found that even though coaching is really very one-on-one, very personalized, because when we sit together through a coaching session, we're really working one-on-one with formulating a tailor-made plan for the client, because at the end of the day, you're the expert in your life. Only you know your strengths, your weaknesses, your triggers, what that happiness and success looks like for you, and how you can achieve that given your particular lifestyle. So what works for me does not necessarily work for you. There, in my opinion, is really no one size fits all. But there are certain underlying truths and core issues and challenges that we all face throughout our lives. And that's what I'm here to share with all of you, how certain experiences and things that I went through helped me become better, evolve as a being. My personal journey through the self-discovering process, the healing journey as well, and different tips on how to surpass those challenges and really find yourself at the light at the end of the tunnel. I feel that through diving into different literature and different people on social media, I have realized that there's a lot of highlight on the success, the light at the end of the tunnel, but not so much on the tunnel itself, on what that process looks like realistically in terms of the consistency, the discipline, the pain, the hurt that might come up for a lot of people, the confusion, the fog. Things can get very foggy sometimes. You know where you want to be, but then you don't know how to get there, and the route just becomes very confusing. And there's this element to things where people feel that they're by themselves. Like, no one can possibly be going through what I'm going through. I can't really communicate with anyone. How am I going to get out of this? We create this narrative and this storyline in our heads that we're alone in this process, when in reality, we're far from. Because I go back to, once again, there's these universal truths that really just tie us all one with the other. I can be sitting there on a coaching session with a client and they're going through this experience that I went through, or that I am going through as I'm speaking to them, and I'm healing from that. I could be in the midst and the process of something so similar. And of course, I won't communicate that with a client, because once you're in a session, it's all about the client. And I really, take that step back and just provide that space for them to really find their own way through things. But you realize that you're not alone, and that we shy away from really expressing ourselves for various different reasons. Some of us, I'm a very reserved person. I'm extremely reserved. Very few people know in depth anything in detail about my life, because it's not that, oh, I don't want to share, and I'm just very reserved. That's just the way I am. Some people don't like to talk to their friends and their family members or their partners about certain things, I found, because there might be trust issues there. Like, okay, if I say this, I don't need people knowing my business. And then she tells this one, and this one tells this one, and before you know it, like, the whole world knows what's going on with you, when all you wanted was to confide in someone. A lot of us are scared of being judged, for thinking a certain way, for taking certain actions, or being involved in certain scenarios and circumstances, not understanding that you're not the first, you won't be the last, and you're not the only. But if you ever want to vent or communicate this or work through it through a coaching session, of course, when you work with me, you're in a judgment-free zone, super confidential, and it's a safe environment, because that's key. That's key to being able to really be honest with yourself and dissect whatever it is that you're facing or you're trying to get to. But going back in terms of why I wanted to set up this channel, I really wanted to be able to share in as much detail as I possibly could. I myself am really breaking through my personal comfort zone with all of this, because whoever knows me personally knows I'm not a picture person. I'm not huge on social media. I'm not I don't even like recording myself. I'm not big on hearing my own voice, which is odd given that I have dealt with the media before, and I am on Sundays. I have a segment on Aquí Ahora with Rubio Charlie on Telemicro, for those of you that are Dominican and watch the channel. So it's not like I'm never in front of, or have never been in front of a camera. I'm just still working through getting comfortable with it. So bear with me. Everything's a process. And even with that, I've learned that, if you won't know until you try. And the more you try and the more consistent you stay with something, the better you get at it. So this channel is going to focus on the experiences, the tips on how to evolve, how to transcend through the self-discovery process, what you can do to reach your goals, reach your objectives in as real as a manner as possible. I don't want to sugarcoat it. I don't want to just focus on the success that you're going to have at the end of it all, because there's that middle portion that not a lot of people like to talk about, because it's not pretty. It gets ugly before it gets pretty. That's just the way it is. In order for you to reach the light at the end of the tunnel, you do have to transcend through that darkness, that dark period. Some people call it the shadows, the dark shadows, the inner turmoil, whatever it may be. In order for you to break away from certain self-limiting beliefs that might be getting in your way as an obstacle of reaching your goals and your objectives, whatever those objectives may be, then if you can't break away with them, you're going to be stuck. That's why a lot of people feel like they're hamsters running on a wheel. Like, I'm doing all of this, but I feel like I'm not moving. And it's super vital not to confuse movement with progress. Just because you're moving doesn't mean that you're progressing towards anything, because you can be doing a lot, doesn't mean that you're getting a lot more done. That's what it comes down to. So it's really analyzing yourself as a being and identifying where you can grow, where you can become better, and working on yourself. And in that process, really figuring out who you are and staying as flexible as you possibly can to the changes that are going to come into our lives. That is vital. Adaptation is super important. You're not meant to be the same person forever. If you find that you look back a year, 2 years from now, and you're still the same person, there's a very high possibility that your growth as a being, your growth as a self, is stagnant. And all change comes from within. Once you start making those changes within, then you're going to be able to transcend that into your external environment. So if you want to live a, I want my life to be happy, and I want to meet a great guy, and I want to get married, or I want to have children, or I want to land that good job, or I need a raise at work, I want to have a better relationship with my family members, I just want to live a more fulfilling and lucrative lifestyle. All of that has to change within yourself, because you can't expect abundance and happiness if you yourself are not abundant and happy. And where does that start? That starts with yourself. And you can only start making changes in your inner world once you have an understanding of who you are, how you operate, why you operate the way you operate. And that takes time, consistency. That takes a lot of courage in many circumstances, because it's really owning up to things that you would have preferred to ignore. It's taking responsibility, accountability for your own actions, reactions, decisions in life. It's confronting uncomfortable and maybe hurtful situations from your past, whether it be as far back as your childhood, or maybe the last romantic relationship that you encountered, which could have been, who knows, maybe a couple of months ago, maybe yesterday. It's all about really sitting with it, feeling your way through it, and not justifying running away from that experience, because I feel like that's what, well, particularly in this time, with the quarantine and COVID-19, it really slowed a lot of people down in terms of there's only so many distractions that you're going to have before you really hit that wall of, who am I? What am I doing? What is my purpose? Why am I feeling that agitation that I'm feeling inside? Why am I all of a sudden feeling sad? Why, it's going to bring up a lot of feelings and emotions and questions. And it's a perfect opportunity to really sit down with it and work through that process. And even so, even though a lot of us do have that opportunity now, of course, I'm not saying everyone does, because this situation has manifested differently for millions and millions of people. But for those of us that do have that opportunity to sit down with ourselves and do some inner healing and some inner work, still running away from it in different ways. Whether it's, you're binge watching Netflix for the millionth time. If it's that your head is dipped in a book. Books are great. Books are amazing. Anyone that knows me knows that I cannot live without a book. But that can also serve as a form of distraction. Whether it's FaceTiming with someone 24/7, whether you're picking up alcohol more than you usually would, or you've been picking it up for quite some time, or you're smoking, or this or that, whatever is going to numb your mind or take you away from yourself is a form of distraction, even if at the moment it is productive. Because you could have 1,000,001 productive things, but there's still a form of distraction. It's a matter of taking out the time to really sitting with yourself and analyzing who you are and where your life is and where your life is headed in a very deep and just constructive manner, as much as you possibly can. So this channel is really going to touch up on a lot of that, a lot of inner healing, the healing process, how maybe things that you would have not caught on to in the past really trigger you to all of a sudden become aware of, wow, this is a problem. I didn't realize that this particular seed that was planted in me from childhood is now the self-limiting belief that is not allowing me to transcend the obstacle of reaching my objective or my goal, again, whatever that may be. So I'm so happy and excited that everyone's going to be able to be part of this platform, which my vision is that will eventually turn into a community of support, of elevation, of insight, of enlightenment, and of course, whatever themes, topics you would like for me to talk about, feel free to comment below and let me know what you would like my opinion on or to touch base on. Also, please subscribe. I'm trying to do this at least once a week. And yeah, I'm very excited to hear from everyone and just to share some insight again on my personal experience as well as my professional experience as a coach. Now, for this week, something brief. Wanted to point out just to give you a quick example of more or less what we would be talking about. Example. Not so long ago with my daughter, she was going through a little something where she got upset about something. Kids, she got a little upset about something, is intentionally ignoring someone that's telling her to get X, Y, and Z done. She's just off with an attitude. She's not listening. This person then becomes agitated, has an adverse reaction, and raises his voice, and she gets upset and she runs off, and I know she's upset. So I give her a couple of minutes to cool down, and once we go back and speak to her, we've been practicing making sure to express feelings and emotions, not to suppress them, because that's something that I learned from my past that I had been doing for several years, because I thought, I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to seem weak. I didn't want to seem vulnerable. I didn't want to be bothered with it. So I would just suppress it, distract myself with something. And ultimately, those same negative emotions that I was latching on to were just simmering up to the surface in different points in my life that, caused more harm than it should. So we speak about that, let it out and express yourself, which she did, because there I want to cut that cord of suppressing emotions, which I learned from very young. So I'm trying to teach her not to do the same. So she expresses herself and she cries and she expresses how hurt she is and how uncomfortable that situation made her. My immediate reaction with that was to reassure her that the reaction of that individual did not take away from the fact that that person loved her very much. And once I made that statement, it clicked. Immediately, I became aware of the fact that I was planting a seed in her, which made love and aggression or hostility synonymous with one another. That was a huge mistake. Best intentions in the world. I meant nothing wrong by it, but by automatically making that conversation about love or putting love into that conversation, to that context, that's the seed that I'm planting. Because she nodded her head. She's like, okay, yeah, I know, I understand that person loves me very much. But it's like, no, I had to remove that comment right away, because that had nothing to do with love. That was a reaction, lack of communication, lack of mutual self-respect, nothing to do necessarily with love. Because once I made it about love, that seed is planted. If it's watered enough, it's going to grow roots and there's going to give off fruit that is going to impact her relationships that around the context of love from that moment that I made that comment until God knows when. Why? Because that's what happened with me. That's exactly what happened with me. And the reason why I became aware of the fact that I was causing her more harm than good, even though that was not my intention, was because I had already identified that wound within myself some time ago, and I was well along the healing process of that. So once the words came out of my mouth, like a red flag went off, like, no, that's not okay, that's wrong, you're confusing her, just like you were confused, you know better than that now. Don't keep that cycle going. This is your opportunity to break that cycle. So I immediately took it back and we went over this situation again. Okay, what happened in the beginning? What happened in the middle? What happened in the end? What could have been done differently? And the conversation turned into more, well, there was a lack of communication. I was rude. This person said this nicely. I intentionally ignored them. And their reaction was disrespectful. I disrespected them in turn. So it's just taking accountability for the roles we play, the scenarios we live day by day. Understanding that mutual respect is important, and that expression of feelings and emotions is crucial as well. So she spoke to the person about how she felt, and they came to a conclusion to the matter, which was a great conclusion. And that's it, problem solved. But the essence of that was that lesson. That one phrase could have been detrimental. God knows where that would have went. But it's understanding, becoming aware of your words, tracing those words to your thought process, and letting your thought process really take you to connect the dots and go down that trail of exactly where did that thought process come from. What seed was planted in there that gave birth to this thought process? When did it happen? How did it happen? Is there any validity to it? Is this something that's good for me, bad for me? Can I change it? You can change anything you want to change if you really focus on doing that. And take it from there, but it's really analyzing these things, and it's a trail. It's like connecting the dots. The words are said, the words came from a thought process. That thought process came from, fruits within you that were there due to a seed that was planted there before, that grew roots a certain way. Where is that seed? Where did that seed come from? Who planted it there again? When was it planted? Why is it planted? Do I want to keep that seed there, or is it time to remove the entire essence of that and change it with something else, with something more positive? That is part of the deconstruction of who you thought you were in order to construct who you are. Not so much construct, because who you truly are is already within you. It's more of a breaking down the walls, taking off the veils of whatever is covering up your true powerful self. So that was just a little glimpse of how something so minute in that moment really just like set off all these alarms in my head, and I helped me become aware of still where I need to grow a little more in, what I need to work on, the importance of breaking ancestral karma, baggage, whatever you want to call it, of family cycles that can be very, very toxic, because we get things from generations to generations. I got things from my mom that were wonderful. I love my mother. She's amazing. But I also got a couple of things that were not so great that had to do with, depression, feelings of lack of worth, self-esteem issues, anxiety issues, worry, fear of lack. The list goes on and on. But then these are all things that, thank God, and thanks to an amazing support system that I have around me, I've been able to become aware of, identify, and change. So I hope that this was somehow useful for anyone that it resonates with. And once again, this is only a small glimpse of what you'll be seeing every Tuesday. So I'll have the videos up every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Make sure, once again, to comment, to subscribe, and spread the word. Of course, whatever you would like me to touch base on, please let me know. You can also follow me on Instagram, BC Rachel, where I have several inspirational, motivational quotes, as well as a couple of clips and videos as the tips to how to transcend certain situations, what's worked for me, what's worked for a couple of clients. And I am so looking forward to doing this every week. So once again, thank you for your time, everyone, and I hope to see everyone next week. Take care.